Welcome, everyone. People are starting to come in. And welcome to our webinar on affording graduate school. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, let us know who you are and where you're watching from, what program you're in. And it's always nice to know who's here. I want to go ahead and say, too, that if you are joining us from Trio, please send me a private message with your name so I can pass that along to Tiara and the folks at Trio, because I know that you guys are getting some incentives for this, in addition to all the great knowledge you're going to get just from being here. And I'll remind you of that at the end as well. Okay, great. We've got senior business student, HPEX. I'm not sure what that is, but great. We've got people, seniors, getting ready to health, physical ed, and exercise science. Okay. Very cool, very cool. I see some familiar people in here, people we work with. We will give a few minutes for other people to come in, but we're glad that you're here on this beautiful day. As a graduate student myself, I've been through this process before, and Jack is well on his way to being on that process himself. So I'm excited about what we've got to share with you this afternoon. If you're just joining us and you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, let us know who all is here. That would be excellent. Jack and I are here in Richmond, but I know people are probably watching from all over the state, maybe even the country. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started because I'm not seeing a ton of new people coming in. So let's go ahead and get started today. And as people come in, they can join us. So I'm Carly Tony. I'm the graduate assistant at the Virginia Financial Success Center here at VCU. So I run all things MoneySpot, and I also run our graduate programming. And I'm going to go ahead and let our money coach and presenter for the day introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Jack. Like Carly said, I am a money coach with the MoneySpot at VCU. I am currently a third year with the Honors College at VCU, majoring in political science with a particular interest in finance and banking. All right, so today our presentation is planning for your financial future, grinding for that graduate degree. So if y'all don't mind, in the chat, can y'all post what type of graduate degrees y'all are looking to pursue, whether it be master's degrees, PhDs, law school, med school, whatever it is you're interested in. So first, this is our outline. These are the topics we'll be covering today. First, we'll go over the why of why you need to go to graduate school or why you should. We'll then cover how much it'll cost, cash flow planning, employment during graduate school, and how you can afford it. First, the why. The first thing you need to consider is why you want to go to graduate school. It's a big expense, so don't spend more money on school if it isn't in your best interest. And it's not in everyone's interest to go to graduate school. If you already know what you want to do and getting a graduate degree is required for your field or will grant you greater employment opportunities, then grad school is a good idea. If you're unsure of what you want to do, graduate school isn't exactly the right option because you'll end up racking up a bunch of debt. But if you have an entry-level job, if there's an entry-level job you can't get with your bachelor's degree, you're looking for a promotion or a career change, then graduate school might be for you. So how much will it cost? There's some expenses you need to consider beyond just tuition. First, applying to graduate school can be quite costly, depending on the number of schools you're applying to. Application fees are usually around $70 per school, so you need to think about all the colleges you have attended. You'll have to send the university you're applying to a transcript from each school, which has its own fees associated with it. So if you went to community college and then transferred to a university, are now applying to grad school, you'll have to pay for 2 transcripts rather than 1 to be sent to each university you're applying to. Most graduate schools also require some sort of entrance exam, whether it be the GRE, LSAT, MCAT, or whatever else. These have their own fees for taking the exam, as well as study materials, which which can be quite expensive, particularly for medical school and law school. You also might have to take these exams more than once, which is another cost you need to consider. And many people forget to budget the interview travel expenses. Certain graduate schools require interviews before admittance. So if you're applying to a school that's far away, you'll have to save enough money to cover the cost of travel, whether that be gas for a car ride, for a flight, train ticket, hotel, meals, etc. You also have to think about clothing. If you don't already own professional interview attire, you'll need to buy some. And once you're accepted to grad school, decide which university to attend, you'll have to consider relocation fees along with, housing and such. So if you're moving from Virginia to California, or from Virginia to any other state, you'll have to save more money to account for the difference in cost of living, as a lot of grad schools are concentrated in California, DC, and New York. You'll also need to consider the general expenses of living during the time you're in graduate school, like rent, food, transportation, etc. If you're planning on relying on your parents for these things, graduate school might not be the best option yet. So cash flow planning. You got to start good habits now. You can start creating these good money habits now by creating a cash flow plan. A cash flow plan is a short-term plan focused on long-term goals. It's your income minus expenses. By knowing what your cash flow looks like now and practicing keeping track of it, you'll have a better idea of what your financial needs might be like in graduate school. Our coaches at the Money Spot, including me, can also help you make a cash flow plan looking towards the future if you make an appointment. So you also need to consider employment. Some things you need to focus on are how will you earn income while you're in school. On-campus assistantships can be a good option, sometimes offer salary or tuition reimbursement, depending on the type of degree you're pursuing. Off-campus jobs will likely offer more money, but less flexibility in terms of hours. So you need to consider your ability to balance work and school with how many hours you'll be able to work. You also have to consider if your job will allow you to take time off while you're in school for projects, papers, tests, etc. You need to also consider required internships that may be unpaid, and you need to account for that in your cash flow. And another thing you need to consider is if your job offers any kind of tuition payment or reimbursement towards your degree. So how to afford it? Besides tuition reimbursement from an employer, grants are one of the best ways to fund your graduate education. These are usually research-based grants, particularly in relation to PhDs, but there are also many grants available for underrepresented populations in a field, for example, women in STEM. Check your school for these types of grants first and talk to your advisor and seek out opportunities from professional organizations. Most people need to take out federal student loans to fund their education. Now, there's a few buyer beware ways to pay for colleges listed on here. The first of which is private loans, and private loans have high interest rates, strict repayment terms, no forbearance or deferment, and no help from the federal government during economic crisis, such as the COVID-19 crisis. Another one is home equity loans or other secured loans. Using your home or car as collateral means that if you don't or can't pay back the loan, you lose your house or car. The last buyer beware way to pay is credit cards. These have very high interest rates, strict repayment terms, and typically have high default rates. So the first thing you need to do is to complete your FAFSA. So you visit studentaid.gov, and the FAFSA is available each year beginning October 1st, and they offer tutorials and help available to help you fill out your FAFSA. They also have a mobile app called My Student Aid. So when filling out your FAFSA, you first need to gather information. First thing to gather is your latest tax returns, then your income information and total costs. You also need to consider whether you're going to apply as an independent versus dependent. As a dependent, like you are in undergraduate, you typically put down your parents' income, and your FAFSA and the grants allotted to you are based off their income as well. As an independent, you're allowed to put your parents' income information down as well, though it's typically considered much less. So earlier is better when you're completing your FAFSA, and the priority dates vary by school and by graduate program. But if you apply earlier, you have a better chance for grants and loans and more time to identify funding sources to pay for graduate school. First you should consider your current loan status using the repayment estimator at studentaid.gov/loan simulator. You can check your federal student loan balance and work on different repayment plans offered there. But while you're in graduate school, your undergraduate loans will be in deferment, so you won't be expected to make payments on them until 6 months after you are no longer in school. So that's also something to consider if you're looking to take a gap year or two to earn work experience, that your loans will no longer be in deferment during that period of time. However, unsubsidized federal loans will be accruing interest while you are in school. So one strategy to lower repayment in the future is to repay the interest while you are in school using one of the jobs we talked about earlier. So now I can walk y'all through the repayment estimator. If I'm going to share my screen real quick to do that. Right. So once you go to studentaid.gov/loan simulator, this is what first comes up. It gives you 3 options. The one you want to look for is I want to find the best repayment strategy. You can log in and start, and that'll input your current loan information. For now, I'm just going to show you start from scratch. It takes you here. You typically pick I have a job or plan to get one soon. Continue. We can skip this step if you aren't sure where you're going to graduate school. If you're going to Virginia, you can put that in there or wherever else. Yearly salaries for once you graduate. Median salary for a master's degree, which I'll use here, is about $75,000. And you can expect income to grow by 5% per year. This is the national average. So you input that, press continue. And then for estimating your loan balance, if you signed in, it inputs your loan balance automatically. If not, you can use national loan data or for specific school. So I'll put in Virginia Commonwealth University here. There we go. And degree or certificate, I'll again put master's degree and estimate loans. Skip field of study for now. So this is the typical student loan balance after obtaining master's degree from VCU, along with average interest rate. And click continue. I'm going to skip over public service loan forgiveness for now, and we'll talk about that a little later. And primary repayment goal, let's say we don't have a specific goal yet, and view results. It loads, it then shows you this. It just gives you some general results. This shows you the lowest paid over time. It gives you an estimation from your lowest to highest paid per month until August 2028. And if you scroll down and click view details, it'll show you a little more about how the repayment plan works, some advantages and disadvantages, and eligibility requirements. You can then scroll down, click view and compare all plans, which will show you all repayment plans available to you. The first is the standard repayment. This allows you to pay the entirety of your loan via fixed payments with a minimum of $50 over your loan term. And most loans are 10 years, particularly for master's degree in law school. It shows you your average monthly payment, but for standard repayment, it'll typically be the same. So for this estimation, it'll be $436. Shows you the total to be paid and when you'll pay that off, along with any forgiveness amount. You can also then view details and apply and go through that in a fairly more detailed fashion. The second is graduated repayment. The payments start low and gradually increase every 2 years. It's still repaid over 10 years for most loans. And these also show you if it's a good option for public service loan forgiveness. Again, we'll go over that in a little bit. But this shows you your monthly payment starts at $244, and by the end of that 10-year period, it shows you that goes up to $731. The total to be paid about $54,000. There's more here because paying it over or starting with lower payments, going to higher payments, you have more interest typically because you start off paying less, so you have more interest accruing at the front end of that. Next is the extended fixed repayment. Allows you to pay a fixed monthly payment over an extended period of 25 years. Again, not a good option for public service loan forgiveness. And shows you the extended, which is, it would be paid off in 25 years rather than 15 or rather than 10. Shows you your monthly repayment, which is the lowest of $226, but you have to pay more overall because you accrue more interest over those 25 years. Down here, we have the extended graduated repayment. Again, they start low and gradually increase, but you also pay these over 25 years rather than 10. So your monthly payment starts at $135 and moves up to $426, with a lot more to be paid because, again, that extra interest you're accruing. Then there's a revised pay-as-you-earn repayment. It's based on your income and current family size. So it limits it to 10% of your discretionary income. And again, monthly payments, total to be paid and payoff date. And then the income contingent repayment, which again, based on your income and family size, but switches from 10% of your discretionary income to 20% of your discretionary income. And then it also shows you monthly payment, total to be paid, and again, your payoff date.
I'll jump in here real quick too and say these two that are the qualified plans for public service loan forgiveness. Here it's saying that there's a $0 forgiveness amount because we said we were not interested in public service loan forgiveness. But if that is something you're interested in, which again, we'll talk about closer to the end, it would show you how much forgiveness you would be eligible for.
So again, you can come through this and put your own information, view details, and apply for each of these various repayment plans and look at them in more detail with as much time as you'd like. And if you go back to initial results, it again shows you this along with the various details associated with that plan. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, send it back to Carly's presentation.
And I'll say too, from that website, you can also simulate borrowing more loans. So when you are thinking about going to graduate school and probably taking out some more loans, you can have it add those loans that you think you'll be taking out before you actually take them out. So you can look at, hey, is this actually going to be affordable for me?
So there's some other considerations when considering graduate school. You should weigh the options of going to school full-time versus part-time. If you decide to go full-time, you'll complete your degree faster, but part-time, you may have more financial stability as you're able to study at your own pace and work while you're in school. It's very dependent on your own situation though. Additionally, you have the option of online programs such as Arizona State University or Purdue Global. They both offer fairly extensive ones. And if they're available or programs near where you live, they may eliminate the need for relocation costs and save you money on housing expenses. And finally, you should consider your eligibility for loan forgiveness. More and more, it's being offered as a benefit by employers. Employers can offer up to $5,250 annually until 2025. Now, Carly can talk a little bit about public service loan forgiveness.
Yeah, so we've kind of been alluding to it all presentation as we've been looking at the loan simulator. And so you may have heard a little bit about public service loan forgiveness. It's been in the news lately, especially. And so basically what this is a program for people who are going into public service to give them a little bit of benefit on their loans. So the big thing to remember is qualified. That is the word to remember for public service loan forgiveness. So you need to be working for a qualified employer and be on a qualified repayment plan, making qualified payments. So what that means is you saw on the loan simulator which plans were good for public service loan forgiveness. They're generally the income-driven repayment plans. So you want to make sure you're on a qualified loan plan and then working for a qualified employer. So what is that? That might be like a nonprofit, a government agency, education, healthcare, any of those kinds of public service fields. There is a big list of them if you're looking for that, but you also can just submit your paperwork to your employer when you start work on the first day, and they'll verify it. And so you have to do that every year for 10 years. There's some verifying paperwork, and you have to make 120 payments on your loans. So that's the standard 10 years. But then if you have been working for a qualified employer on a qualified plan and made 120 qualifying payments, your loans will be forgiven at the end of that 10 years, whatever is left. And like I was saying, when we were looking at the loan simulator, that can give you an idea, if you say you are interested in public service loan forgiveness, of how much of that might be forgiven. I've worked with people who had About $100,000 in student loan debt after a doctoral degree. And when looking at student loan forgiveness, would end up forgiving about half of the loan debt there. So if you're already planning into going into a public service field, it can be a really great option to look at. And I'm also available, and the coaches of the Money Spot are available for more specific questions about your career path.
So, and you may also be eligible if you're, entering education, nonprofit, or healthcare professions or government work. Loan forgiveness is also a hot political topic these days, so it's best to keep an eye on governmental policies and requirements, as loan forgiveness can change with each new administration. So, how can you contact us at the Money Spot? Our peer coaches are available to help answer your questions and provide guidance on your unique financial situation. We offer appointments on building cash flow, creating savings goals, affording college, improving your credit score, and paying down debt. To make an appointment, you can visit our website at themoneyspot.vcu.edu. That's the Money Spot, TheMoneySpot.vcu.edu. All appointments will be held virtually for the remainder of spring 2021. We'll hopefully be back in person in the fall. And you can follow at The Money Spot on Instagram for updates regarding future programming and general financial tips. And for additional questions, you can send your emails to themoneyspot@vcu.edu. After you graduate, the Financial Success Center is also a great resource, and it offers financial workshops and individual coaching.
Someone had asked earlier about these slides being available, and they will be available on YouTube next week. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can drop the link to our YouTube channel in the chat so that you can have that for future reference. And all of our previous webinars from this semester and last semester are also there for you to take a look at. But for now, I think we can go ahead and take questions. And if you don't have questions now, but think of some later, I'm going to go ahead and put our email in the chat as well. So you can email those to us at the Money Spot, or make an appointment with Jack or one of our other amazing coaches to talk more about making that cash flow plan, planning for graduate school, or even looking at your own student loan repayment plans. So I want to thank everybody for coming out today. It was great to have you all. I hope that you've learned something and are feeling more prepared for your graduate programs. Again, if you're a TRIO student, please send me a private message so I can take your attendance with your name. Otherwise, we hope to see you at our next presentation, which will be about student loan repayment. And that is going to be on April 22nd at 2 o'clock. And we'll be discussing student loan repayment. So be sure to join us for that.